it. So yes, that will be the argument, that this should be controlling the mind of man. This understanding, this context, this humility should be controlling our behavior.
The person who invented it? I mean, what exactly is it that... I mean, I'm not suggesting that people should be lawless or careless or be bringing unnecessary suffering. I'm trying to, advocate love and charity and goodwill.
Yeah, well, that's all emotional crap. I'm advocating that people just meet their responsibility to the truth. There's a truth here underlying our existence. There's a round world truth. And that's our obligation, is to honor to the truth, not to be silly and foolish, not to squander our intelligence with dumbass delusions. That's the fucking intent, is to get it fucking right, not to get it wrong, to understand what ride we are on.
And peace and, I guess, beauty and harmony and resonance. Okay, I want to say really quick, I'm running out of time here.
Whatever that means. Beauty, harm, blah, blah, and resonance, whatever. I mean, it's just mushy words. There's a truth here. We're either in an airplane or we're on a cruise ship, and there's different things you can do depending on what you're on. You can't jump out of a plane. You can fall off of a ship and you might still live. I mean, there's rules here. And we've got to know the fucking rules, or we're not going to behave appropriate to our circumstance.
I want to say some things. So what is that? Yeah, the what is not is all going to be put on the particular case. Now, I was trying to get at these ontological levels. On the particular case, what's ambiguous, what's not ambiguous, it's really going to depend. Let's hear the case. I think the fact that there are lawyers, and sometimes, like in a big Supreme case, they'll have 5 different judges, and then they can disagree. How is that possible? I mean, if there is just this objective thing.
Yeah, well, how is it possible is because it's very complex. There's no, just because you say that, okay, there's numbers, there's an addition sign, a multiplication sign, an equal sign, a divided sign, okay, just because you have this thing, numbers and these functions, doesn't mean that the equation can't get incredibly complex, and therefore really hard to decipher what the right answer is sometimes. That there can be these circumstances where the balance is so perfect that there's no way that you really have to dissect it to figure out which way it's really tilting. So that's all that is. It's not that the truth is ambiguous, it's that our vision is limited. We can't see the truth all the time.
There's objective morality there, or there's no ambiguity. Why do we have different lawyers? I mean, it seems like the whole law system is kind of set up because there can be contesting accounts of what happened.
Well, that's not just it, but there's always circumstances, okay? Extenuating circumstances. It's very hard to write one law for all circumstances. So that's all it's a concession to, is that sometimes you're going to have to, there's going to be competing interests, and it's going to be a difficult equation. So what? So there's some ambiguity created by our ignorance, but it has nothing to do with whether the foundation is solid.
Right? Sometimes things happen, and we don't have sufficient evidence other than 2 different people's stories. Okay. This question of what makes an authoritative disambiguation, this is going to be the last one I'm going to address. I already addressed slavery, and I tried to address it in the fact that we're places and moments of the cosmos. We're not things that own or could be owned. If we try to say that, we're covering over a great ambiguity. That would be the point. The issue here on authoritative disambiguation is hear it in my voice. I watch it in your posture. I watch it in mine. People, it's the tone, it's the posture, it's the sound of voice. When people talk about the sound of voice or the impassioned pleas that people make, that's one level of the embodied authoritative disambiguation. But I think the way that authoritative disambiguation...
Oh, come on. What is this drivel? Okay, I mean, yes, even our language, okay, has words in it that are, fudgy, right? I mean, I always make the argument with the word spontaneous because it really doesn't have a good literal meaning, because it's a cause and effect universe, and so spontaneous really doesn't fit anywhere as a literal truth. And so, yeah, this is a little bit sloppy, Okay, but because it's a little sloppy, because our vision isn't perfect, crystal clear, doesn't give you an excuse to throw out this idea that we have to always live with uncertainty, that the truth isn't there for us just to pull the curtain back and know the truth.
It's sanctioned in society is through laws, it's through state apparatus, the imposition of actual force through military and police.
Yeah, well, you have to fall on some side, so that's just the way it is. Somebody has to make a decision sometimes, all right? Because there is no such thing as no decision. So some best guess at a decision has to be made. So sometimes you just go by a raise of hands, and whatever the majority says goes, because you don't have some great truth to throw at the majority and say they're wrong. And so until you build that truth, and still, like they did to abolish slavery, and like they did to give women their rights, they had to build an argument and say this is where you've got it wrong, and now we can point it out to you. Yeah, that's what you have to do. So people like me who are vegetarians will argue to people, this is why what you're doing is wrong, and at least you shouldn't perpetuate it into the future. If you can't control your own addiction, control the future's addiction as best you can. Yes, so you can make an argument, but that's all we've got. And I think your argument of all this fluffy words and these puffy clouds, it's just a distraction from doing what we need to do, which is this hard clinical analysis. We have to look at the hard truth. We can't fluffy and you're making it ambiguous by creating false jargon and distracting notions that somehow what's important is how lyrical my voice is when I'm saying it and not what I'm saying. I mean, that's bullshit.
There are ways that we enforce private property, as an example. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I'm with you on the political thing. I mean, the private property thing. It's conceptually necessary, I suppose, for people to say I have privacy, I have things that are mine. But the idea that you can extend that I own thing to things that have nothing to do with your life, but have to do with how you make money. Yeah, that's where it all goes wrong. So we can agree on that one, especially when that notion of ownership is inherited, which I think we also agree on, which is very good. But you ought to just say it directly, because all this indirect rubbish I don't think is going to get through to most people. But that's just my opinion. Different strokes, different folks, different hammers for different hammerers. Yeah. That's the way it works. Okay, now I'm just waiting. I've got to find a little place where I have to click the cessation of video button. Yeah. I look very distinguished. No, perhaps not. But anyway, pink. Probably not going to see this color too often. But anyway, until next time.